The city of Los Angeles glowed under 1,000 lights. Among the noise of traffic and laughter, an old man walked alone along the sidewalk, his hands rough, his back slightly bent. His name was Mang Ernesto de la Cruz, a 64-year-old carpenter from a quiet barrio in Batangas, Philippines. For most of his life he built homes for other people, never realizing that he'd never built one for his own dreams. He carried a small suitcase, an old guitar, and a photo tucked inside his wallet, a fading picture of his late wife Luz. Every line on his face told a story, every wrinkle carried a memory. To anyone passing by, he was just another old man. But inside, a storm of hope still lived. Decades earlier, when he was young, his voice used to fill the warm Philippine evenings. Children would stop playing to listen, neighbors would gather, and his wife would smile from their window while he sang her favorite song. They didn't have much, just a wooden radio, a kerosene lamp, and love that made poverty bearable. Music was their escape. But after Luz died of illness, the songs disappeared. The guitar gathered dust in the corner of their home, and Ernesto stopped singing. The only music he heard after that was the sound of his hammer against wood. Every knock reminded him of what he had lost. One afternoon, while sanding a stool in his small workshop, his granddaughter Mira came in. She was 8, curious, full of life. She showed him a video on her phone, someone singing on America's Got Talent. He smiled at the screen, amused by the shining stage. "Lolo," she said softly, "you can sing better than him." He laughed, shaking his head. "No, my dear, I'm just a carpenter. That is for stars." But she looked straight into his tired eyes. "You always fix broken chairs, broken tables, why not fix your broken dream?" Her words stayed with him through the night. He stared at his guitar, touched its strings, and for the first time in years, played a single chord. It sounded cracked, like an old memory trying to breathe again. Days later, he stood at the airport, ticket in hand. The first of his life. The air smelled of coffee and jet fuel. He felt nervous, lost in a world of signs and announcements he didn't understand. But he whispered to himself, "For you, Luz, one last song." The plane soared through the clouds. He looked out the window, the sunrise reflecting off his eyes. He imagined Luz sitting beside him, smiling the way she used to when he sang. When he arrived in Los Angeles, everything felt huge. The buildings towered like mountains of glass. He stayed in a small motel near downtown, practicing softly every night, whispering to the picture of his wife. "Do you think they'll like me, Luz?" he'd say. "Or maybe they'll laugh. But I'll sing for you anyway." The morning of his audition arrived. The AGT theater buzzed with life. Dancers stretching, singers rehearsing, camera lights flashing. Ernesto sat quietly backstage, clutching his guitar. His calloused hands trembled. He saw younger contestants filled with confidence. He smiled at them, remembering when he too was young and fearless. A stage assistant called his number. He stood slowly, took a deep breath, and whispered a prayer in Tagalog. "Panjanun wag po akong mapahiya." When he stepped on stage, the lights nearly blinded him. Thousands of eyes watched. The judges, Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel, looked up, curious. Sofia greeted him warmly. "Hello there, sir. What's your name?" "My name is Ernesto de la Cruz," he said, voice soft but steady. "And where are you from?" "I am from the Philippines." The crowd cheered softly. Simon leaned forward. "And what do you do for a living?" "I'm a carpenter, sir, for 40 years. But today I want to sing a song. For someone I loved." The audience grew silent. The first piano note echoed through the hall. Ernesto began to sing, "You Raise Me Up." His voice was not perfect, but it was full of life, cracked in places, trembling with emotion. Every lyric carried decades of love, loss, and devotion. The audience leaned in, some wiped away tears. When he reached the line, "You raise me up so I can stand on mountains," his voice broke slightly, and he smiled through it, holding back tears. He looked up at the ceiling as though singing to someone above. In the audience, a woman whispered, "He's singing to his wife." The final note faded into silence. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Then the entire theater rose to its feet. The applause thundered. The camera caught Simon's eyes glistening. He whispered to Sofia, "That was special." Ernesto bowed deeply. "Thank you, Po." Simon spoke, his voice low but emotional. "Ernesto, I've judged thousands of singers, but very few make me feel something real. You didn't just sing, you told us your life story." Then Simon reached forward and pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded from above. Ernesto gasped, dropping to his knees. He clutched the picture of Luz against his heart, tears pouring down his cheeks. He whispered, "We did it, Luz. We finally did it." Simon walked up on stage, something he rarely did. He put a hand on Ernesto's shoulder. "You built homes your whole life," he said softly. "Today you built a memory none of us will ever forget." The audience roared, chanting his name. Ernesto! Ernesto! Backstage, crew members hugged him, telling him how beautiful his song was. He simply smiled, whispering "Salamat po," thank you. That night his performance went viral across the internet. "Old Filipino Carpenter wins Golden Buzzer" became the headline everywhere. Comments flooded social media, people writing how his song reminded them of their fathers, grandfathers and the dreams they'd buried. Back in the Philippines, neighbors gathered around an old television in his barrio. Children cheered. Elderly men wiped their eyes. Mera sat in front, crying with pride. Someone shouted, "That's our Mang Ernesto!" He did it. Days later, a reporter interviewed him backstage. "Sir Ernesto," she asked, "what do you want to tell people who think it's too late to chase their dreams?" He smiled gently, looking down at his rough, scarred hands. "These hands built walls," he said. "But dreams have no walls, only doors, and it's never too late to open one." When he returned for the semifinals, the pressure was heavier but his spirit lighter. He sang an original song, "For Lose." It spoke of growing old together, of holding hands through rain and sun, of promises kept even after death. Halfway through, the audience began to cry. Simon stood again, clapping slowly. When the music ended, there was silence, the kind that only true art creates. Then thunderous applause shook the hall. He didn't win the season. The trophy went to another act. But Ernesto didn't need it. In his heart he had already won. After the show he sat alone in his dressing room. The golden confetti from his first audition was still stuck to his guitar case. He picked one up, held it between his fingers and smiled. He whispered, "I wish you could have seen this, Luz. But maybe you did." He began to sing softly to himself, the same lullaby he used to sing back home. His voice was faint but warm, echoing in the quiet room. When he finished, a stage light flickered above him, a small shimmer of gold. He looked up, eyes glistening, and chuckled. "You never left, did you?" He placed the confetti piece inside his wallet next to Luz's photo, zipped up his guitar case, and walked out of the theater. Outside, the Los Angeles night air was cool. The city lights reflected in his tired but happy eyes. As he walked away, someone from the crew called out, "Mr. Ernesto, wait." They handed him a framed photo, a still from his golden buzzer moment, confetti raining down, him on his knees, smiling through tears. He thanked them, hugged the frame to his chest, and whispered, "Dreams don't die. They just wait for us to come back." He returned home to the Philippines a local hero. At the airport, hundreds of people welcomed him, neighbors, students, carpenters, and families. They sang his song together as he walked through the crowd. When he reached home, Mira ran to him, hugging him tightly. "Lolo, you did it," she cried. He smiled. "No, Mira, we did it." In the weeks that followed, Ernesto started teaching children in his barrio how to sing and play guitar. He turned his old workshop into a small music room. The sawdust floor was now covered with instruments. The same hands that once built chairs now built melodies. Every evening, as the sun set over Batangas, you could hear his voice again, not on a big stage but in his humble home, surrounded by laughter and music. Sometimes he'd sit by the window, the same spot where Luz once listened, and look at the stars. He'd whisper, "Thank you for raising me up, my love," and somewhere, perhaps in the soft rustle of the night wind, there was an answer, gentle, invisible, but real. Because love, like music, never really ends, it only changes key.